Welcome to the Insightful Player podcast. My name is Chrissy Carew. I'm the host and founder of Insightful Player and the author of Insightful Player, Football Pros Lead a Bold Movement of Hope. I partner with NFL players to transform our world to be inclusive, kinder, and more loving. In each episode, I interviewed NFL players and NFL vets who overcame tremendous obstacles to reach their dream of playing in the NFL. And I'm also a transformational coach. I empower my clients to embrace their dreams, to transform their world and the world around them. And we want you to believe in your dreams and encourage you to commit to them now. Humanity is in trouble. We need you. We all need to do this. We need to embrace our dreams and share them with others so we can have an immediate positive impact on making our world a much kinder place. We invite you to become an important part of our bold movement of hope. Watch this podcast, share it with others, and let us know what you want to see and hear to support you in becoming an insightful player in your life. Thank you. Welcome back to the Insightful Player podcast. Today, we have a very, very, very special guest on our show. We have Kevin Reilly. Kevin is unbelievable. You're just going to love him. He retired from the Dolphins, the Eagles, and the Patriots, and he's with a corporate exec for like 30 years. He's a professional speaker who, by the way, gets a standing ovation. Speaks. He's also an author and a broadcaster. And most importantly, he's a very proud father, grandfather, and husband. Kevin's career came to a screeching halt because he got cancer and he lost his arm, he lost his shoulder and most of his ribs. And it was a complete shock. Here he's this Hollywood handsome man, physically sound, very athletic, brilliant too, by the way. And all of a sudden his whole life changed. And at first, everyone who was really well-meaning told him all these things that he couldn't do. He wouldn't be able to tie his shoes, drive. But guess what? He ties his tie, he ties his shoes, he drives. He joined a racquetball team at his company when he finished his recovery, and he played golf. He's a really good putter, from what I understand, and he also has run some marathons. Do you believe this? Kevin is the epitome of courage, resilience, love, kindness, generosity. And he looks at losing his arm as the biggest blessing in his life. Kevin, welcome.
Chrissy, great to be back with you. And gosh, I just wish somebody can give that speech when I'm standing in front of the God up there, because I'm going to need it.
No, you're gonna, as my mom used to say, you're gonna fly over the Golden Gates. You're not gonna have to wait in line.
I'll take it any way I can get in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're so amazing. You've been through so much. To say that you overcome tragedy and have continued to lead a purpose-driven life is a complete understatement. And many people are just in awe of how many times you have gotten up when you've been pulled down, and it's been a tough road for you. But you've taken the lessons and the perseverance and the will. I don't know, and you go out and help people. Where did you get that will? Please help us understand this.
Well, I was the oldest of 6 kids in a family that was really just middle class. And I guess I got the competitive spirit playing sports. I love sports. And I played baseball, football, and basketball. And even in high school, I was captain of the football team and captain of the basketball team. And I go into an all-boys high school that had 1,100 kids in it. And I don't think that's happened since I was there, that somebody was the captain of 2 major sports. So there was something in me, and I think from my heritage, I had a hard-working dad and a really hard-working mom. My grandfather was a hard worker, and that was what it was expected. I've always thought, even back in the day when things were great during the 60s, I think the 60s were the greatest era to ever grow up as a kid. We were out of war. People were doing well financially. They were building houses in the suburbs. You didn't have social media to mess up your brain. And I've often told people, say, well, did it stop you from dreaming? And I had to think about that. And I went, no. It was, when did you think you wanted to play pro football? When did it come to you might have a chance? And I had to smile. I said, well, I don't want to sound like I'm egotistical, but I said, those 20 to 30 minutes sometimes where you're waiting for a ride to the next practice or the game, because all the parents shuffled kids around. And I can remember getting 6, 7 guys from a baseball team in the back of a pickup truck, which you could never do today. But, and then we also drank out of the garden hose, which you would never do today. But there were a lot of things like that. And, while I'd be waiting for that ride or whatever was coming next, it wasn't unusual for me to just grab a ball. I had a little basketball court in the backyard and go out and pretend. And, pretend I was playing for the 76ers or the Philadelphia Eagles or my Philadelphia Phillies. And you never told anybody about that. But, it was one way of dreaming. And I really believe that on our, unconscious brain, that sometimes that tape recording's still going. Our conscious brains will tell us one thing that can be done and reality and all that. But subconsciously, things happen to us. And that's how I believe that they hypnotize people as they get to that subconscious part. And you never know. I can remember saying, well, if I put on some weight, because I was a string bean, I was 6 foot at one time, 127 pounds. And, I looked like I was in a third world country. But then I started to bulk up, trying to eat the right foods. I got into weightlifting, and one thing led to another. And I had some setbacks, but I guess from coming from a tough family, that was just minor. I mean, it was not going to last long. This too shall pass. And if you got through it, with a little bit of hard scrapple, a little bit of grit, it made you stronger for the next obstacle. And that's what I think is really going to be a problem as we move forward. These young people that are coming out of colleges now, there's job opportunities for sure, but everybody wants to get to the top as fast as they can. They don't want to go through the process of having to struggle a little bit. And you said it earlier, anytime you struggle or you go through a tough period of time, those are lessons learned you can't buy. You just can't buy them. And you look at some of the people that I've met along the way, and being a motivational speaker, there's always 1 or 2 more there with me, and we'll chat afterward. Their stories are just as good, maybe better than mine. So it's a matter of the human spirit, I say, is stronger than anything that can happen to it. And I'm proof of that. And there was a day I was laying in that hospital bed in Sloan Kettering Hospital. And if it wasn't for a guy by the name of Rocky Blyer, who gave me the phone call that made me believe that I could be a good, healthy person going forward once I got past, the diagnosis that they had gotten all the cancer. And I had a rare scar tissue called desmoid. And it was really 10 years I would have to wait until I got the blessing that I was in remission. And every time I went up to the hospital, I worried if that thing had come back again. Because with all the parts that I've lost in my body, you kind of wonder, where will they go next? They were kidding me the other day at the Hall of Fame. I went to see Coach Dick Vermeil get enshrined in the Hall of Fame. We've become very good friends. And one of the guys was kidding me. I mean, it was locker room mentality, even 40 years out, which is fantastic, that you can say the things you said in the locker room, in 1970. And as long as you're with this group, nobody takes it serious. As a matter of fact, if nobody picks on you, you feel left out. And so, one of the guys said to me, Rouse, what are you going to do when you get in front of your creator? And he said, what'd you do with all the parts I gave you? You're missing an arm, a shoulder, 5 ribs. You've lost your gallbladder. You're missing 11 teeth. And you've had a little bit of a problem with one of your glands. What are you going to tell them? I said, I don't know. It's just, I'm working the best I can with what I got, is what my answer was. So, I often think about perspective, and it's been a big word for me through my life. Put things in perspective. A couple of people that, really think their life is not really good right now, and they're living in this country. The perspective I use, and I hope this isn't too harsh for the audience, but My heart goes out to a 19-year-old Ukrainian woman who's holding a baby in one arm and a baby in another arm and is dodging bullets and missiles and hasn't seen her husband in 8 weeks and he's in the army. That's a problem. Not the fact that this guy in front of you is going too slow in traffic. Not the fact that you missed breakfast this morning. Well, you won't miss lunch and you won't miss dinner, so get over it. You know, it's just those little things that we have become the biggest complainers in the world because, Chrissy, we have so much. And
It's
you know,
so
it's
true.
just so.
It's so true. And Kevin, when I think of gratitude, and I agree with you completely on this, I think of you and perspective. Just like you said, with that poor mom holding the baby with bullets flying, and here we are. We have everything we need, but we need a much stronger and a broader and a more grateful perspective. What do you recommend for that? Because you're brilliant.
Well, I don't know that I have, you know, a world cure for it, but I do know this. I do know that you need to struggle in order to appreciate perspective. And if people would just look to, and you know, the people that I get to talk to, I know I'm making, when I get up and talk to 400 people and 20 of them come up to talk to you afterward, that's about the number of people who weren't even going to be there that day. And they weren't mentally there until I started challenging them. And then they start to think, you know, what am I thinking about? Perspective. You're going to go home tonight under a roof. If it's hot outside, you got air conditioning. If it's cold outside, you got heating. You're probably going to have 3 meals a day unless you're on a diet. I mean, those things are taken care of. And so many people in this world don't have any of that or have half of it or a third of it. Perspective. Work yourself through this thing. And then I try to tell them that the best lessons we learn is when we have hardships, because that's when we start to appreciate the good times. And I'm just so afraid right now that these young people coming through our system have had such good times and have had everything, you know, sheltered for them. I mean, I take a look at going to ball games now and having parents go out there and defend their kids why they're not playing, and the reason they're not playing, they're not good enough to play. Everybody gets a trophy now, and why isn't my kid playing? And they're arguing with the coaches, and I go like, you know, this wouldn't have happened in a million years back in the day.
Right.
You weren't good enough, you got cut.
Right.
You know, one of the stories there that I tell, Brian Westbrook out of Villanova University. He went to DeMatha High School, 5'7", 215 pounds as a NFL player. But all along his career, that was too short. He got cut from the freshman football or sophomore from the football team. He came back and became their star player in the junior and senior year. He was also their star player in basketball. He didn't get one Division I offer. He took Villanova, and the first game that Villanova played in order to make some money was against Pittsburgh, a Division I Class A team. We were a Division I AA team. So he's going to play as a freshman, and he begged to take the kickoffs and punch returns, something nobody wants to do because you get clobbered. You got 11 guys coming down to, you know, take you out. He scored on the first touchdown from the kickoff, and he almost scored again on a punt. And he went up to the coach after the game and said, "You're going to wish that you know, gave me a scholarship." And he got drafted in the 3rd round by the Philadelphia Eagles, and he should have got drafted in the 1st round. And someday he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, at least in the Eagles Hall of Fame. But there was a guy that was driven on, I got a chip on my shoulder because nobody believes in me, but I believe in me. And that's what a lot of the young people are missing today, and not even the young people. Anybody who really comes up against a hardship, they're ready to throw in the towel and cry and woe is me. And, you know, they don't think about what can I do to be, as Rocky Blyer said to me on his closing statements that day, your goal today, Kevin, is to be the best one-armed person you can be. Simple, hard, but simple.
Yeah, I know he was a big, champion for you, especially in the early days. And you're so right. These people, there are so many people that overcome tremendous obstacles and have enormous personal, professional, and spiritual success. And I think one thing that can help people is go read some books about those people, go to movies watch those people, because it makes you believe more in yourself. Because we're all the same, you know? We're all the same. What do you think, Kevin?
Well, you brought up the question. I'm going to answer it now. What is the cure for this? I hate doing this, but this little book here, it's called Holy Moments. It's written by a guy named Matthew Kelly, big time Christian. And we're getting away from God as we continue to strive for all these material things in our lives. And the younger kids, they want it now and they want it faster. They don't want to wait. And so the holy moments is nothing more than the golden rule of treat others as you would have them treat you. And I just wrote down a quote from John Wooden that I'm starting to collect quotes for my talks.
Okay.
Boy, this quote was perfect. He said, every day, if you want to make yourself the best person you can be, every day, do something for someone that can't pay you back.
That's you. That's what you do. I mean,
Well,
that's how
I
you
don't do
live.
enough of it, and I'm trying to do more of it. Now it's on my mind consciously every day. 16 years of playing football, I'm a real good guy till you piss me off. And I was conditioned, I went to some counseling when I got out of football. I was conditioned. The counselor told me after 16 years of being told, if you get hit, you get it back up and you hit the guy back harder. You're conditioned to do that. So if somebody disrespects you, cuts in front of the line on you, the linebacker would come out of me. And guess what? It wasn't doing me any good. I would feel good for the moment, challenging somebody or whatever. It's really funny because one of my buddies saw me, lose it one day, and I went out and challenged this guy. And the guy, I could tell the guy's thinking to himself, yeah, let's go right here. Let's go fight. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, he's going to back down because it's a lose-lose situation. If I beat him, he's going to be embarrassed. And if he beats me up, everybody's going to say you beat a guy with one arm. So I had to get out of that mentality of being able to say, okay, just take it. Okay. Another holy moment. Just absorb it. Make yourself a better person. I'm fighting with it every day. I'm getting a little better. I don't go into road rage anymore. It's not worth it. The other thing is, I don't know who has a gun in that car. So I just go, take a deep breath. But if we were just a little kinder and just thought about taking care of, other people at different times. And I'm a totally believe in the fact there are more good people in this world than there are bad. But boy, the bad really get the publicity.
That's true. And that's why we're back with Insightful Player, to showcase people like you that are doing beautiful things in the world. And you're right, the whole kindness piece. It is really important to be kind to someone that could really use it, especially if they're grouchy. And to be curious. And I think we need to be more curious to try to understand a different point of view, because there's like night and day with how we are politically in this world right now. And people are angry and yelling at each other and screaming at each other, and nobody's hearing anything, And I think if we could get more curious and try to understand where they're coming from, I think we could really help our culture. What do you think?
Well, you just hit a really good word called listening.
Mm-hmm.
The reason God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth is we should listen twice as much as we talk.
Right.
And I can't remember who this quote is, but I remember the quote. Listening to someone else is the greatest respect that you can give to that person.
True.
Not interrupting them. I'm often think about when somebody interrupts somebody else or they interrupt me, they're not listening. They're thinking about what they're going to say next, and they can't wait to tell you, so they have to get it out, so they interrupt.
Right.
But listening is very, very important to getting people's confidence in themselves, because you are telling them, regardless of what they're talking about, even if you're politically against it or religiously against it or whatever, you're saying, I'm hearing you out because I respect you as a human being. I may not agree with you, but I'm going to give you my time and listen to you, even if it doesn't sync well with me.
It's true. We would have much more peace if we all did more of that. But how did you do it? when, you had to keep getting up. That resilience and that perseverance is just so prevalent. And these people are out there right now, they're down and out, they're lonely. Some people have had a lot of losses with COVID, jobs, etc. And, people are fighting left and right. There's just very little peace out there. And it just amazes me. It just amazes me.
And I had, at the time of my operation, I had big worries. I had a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and an infant. And I'm thinking, I was working for Xerox at the time, wonderful company. But I thought, are they going to let me go out and still call on customers as a sales representative looking like this? Am I going to go into the back room and be an administrator, or are they just going to tell me, hey, after the next 6 months, we're going to pay for all your hospitalization, which they did do at the time, but you're going to have to find another job. And I worried about making a living. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to feel sorry for myself, because I kept looking at these 3 little pictures that were in my hospital room. And every time I looked at them and thought of that thought, I'd get teary-eyed, like, hey, this is on me. How am I going to come back from this? I got to get a job. I got to take care of these kids. I got a wife. She doesn't deserve this either. And I started to focus on what is the fix here rather than woe is me. And that's the only thing I can do to explain it. Mm-hmm. And, I am a little, they would say, I move along at a rapid rate, sometimes too fast. I think I need to slow things down just so I can be more consistent about what I'm doing. But that being said, I just didn't have time to have a pity party. I had to think, would Xerox have me back? And then when they said they'd have me back, I want to start next month. And I shouldn't have done that. But because I went in, I was salesman of the month for the first month, but guess what? Nobody was in my territory. So I picked up all the, low hanging fruit, and everybody going, look at this guy, he came back and he ran for a touchdown, Well, now they think you're okay and you can do everything. Well, I was still learning how to adapt to driving, keyboarding, all that stuff. Everything took twice as long. Getting dressed took twice as long. Now they've forgotten that, hey, Riles is out there doing it. Don't worry about him anymore. Whoa, I'm still learning this thing. And after 3 months, I hit a wall and I went into a depression. And it wasn't like I could go take a time out. I need to get through this depression. I had to work through it. And it was really hard. It was really, really hard. But all I had to do was look at those 3 kids for inspiration. And I don't know what I would have done if I was single, to tell you the truth. But when you have people that are dependent on you, you will find extraordinary resilience to help them because you love them so much. And you put yourself way down the totem pole. And I needed to do that. Here, 25 years old, I'm the talk of the town, local guy playing for the Philadelphia Eagles in his hometown, little full of myself. All of a sudden, reality hit me in the face like a guy on a kickoff. And that woke me up. And going through that took grit. Going through it took resilience. And when you get through it and you start to thrive again, you say, I can take on the next challenge because I did this one.
That's great. And you had a lot of support. It was obviously you were very loved. And that's what we need for other people out there that are struggling. We need to build support teams because they don't have, a lot of people don't have that because they're too embarrassed to share what's going on. They don't want to be transparent and vulnerable. They think it makes them look less than, which is the opposite. I admire vulnerability and transparency more than anything. So I wish we could find a way to build a support team. So if anyone out there, go ahead.
You're absolutely, the support I got was incredible. I mean, I still have a box of the cards and letters that came flooding in. Funny story, there was a female sports writer for what was called the Philly Daily. It was supposed to be just a sports newspaper. And she was one of the writers, and she had interviewed me on my first operation when they just removed my clavicle and they thought they got it all, and then it came back. And she found out that I went back in and had my arm removed from my shoulder, and she called the hospital that day trying to get an update on me. and I answered the phone. And I answered the phone just as I was given about 10 minutes earlier a morphine shot. I was feeling no pain, and I was having this lovely conversation. She was like, she couldn't even believe I was picking up the phone. She thought she was going to talk to somebody, nearby in the room, or my parents. And so we had this conversation that I vaguely remember, but I must have said, "You tell everybody back in Philly, I'll be back." So my dad comes in the next day and he throws me this newspaper, and there I am on the front page with my kids and my ex-wife, and it says, "Kevin Reilly says I'll be back." He said, "Boy, you just set the bar kind of high."
You think? That's great. So anyone out there, if they need support, I want you to reach out to me. I'm happy to do a mastermind call with any of you, give you some support because you deserve it. So Kevin, let's talk about your book. Kevin has an amazing book. I have it right here, Tackling Life. I highly recommend it. I couldn't put it down. And I understand a lot of people do it in one reading because it's so good.
Yeah, and they're going to get the indication, like, I'll never go through, people that are watching this, what I went through. But in there, I talk about three major problems in my life. This was the first one. The second one was my wife of 20 years left me for another man. Okay. And I didn't know about it. And I looked like the biggest jerk in the world. And last but not least, I'm a recovering alcoholic. So if I didn't learn from coming back off this, if I didn't learn from coming back off of getting divorced, if I didn't learn about coming back off an addiction, those things make you believe you can do it. And there's more people that can relate to divorce and addiction than they can to losing a limb. So that's why this book is important. I'm only telling you the Monarch Notes version, what we can do on this podcast. But most of the questions I get are about people that are going through terrible divorces or lonely divorces, and people that have addictions or their kids have addictions. And this book here will help you understand that you can do it. Again, the human spirit is stronger than anything that can happen to it. You got to believe it. You got to have support. And I believe you have to have faith in God, that he's going to bring you through it. Those are the three things that I, try to talk about in there.
I'm with you 100%. And you've said that a million times about the spirit is much stronger than any of us you could get hit with. And I want everyone to hear that. Your spirit is stronger than any of your adversity that you're going through. And get this book. It's really fabulous. I couldn't put it down. Love it. It's one of my keepers. I'm keeping it on a special shelf over there. It's such a great thing. And Kevin's out there speaking and doing some great things to lift people up. Anything else you want to share before we get into your shout out?
I just think it's never too late. It's never too late to change your life. Wherever you are, if you're in a bad place, make some goals, write them down, look for support, and give it your best shot. And that's all that you can ask for, and that's all that anybody around you can ask for, and that's all that your God can ask for. I thoroughly believe that God gives his biggest challenges to his strongest warriors, and he never gives us more than we can handle.
Right.
A really little quick note that I remember from the nuns teaching us in grade school that I never understood until I got older. There was this guy, and he was the biggest complainer in the world. And finally, God sent two angels down to say, "Hey, you're wearing us out with your complaints." "Well, I have a hard life," he said. Well, he said, "God's given us one opportunity here. We're going to take you to the graveyard of crosses, and you're going to be able to pick out any cross you want." "Really? I can get rid of this huge cross that I have?" "Oh, yes, you can pick out any cross that you want." So he went in there and he searched for 3 hours till he found a cross that was about this big. He said, "Now, he's not going to let me take this cross, is he?" The angel says, "You can take that cross." "You're kidding me." "I'm taking it. You can't take it back. You made a promise." And after they got out, he said, "Wow, I can't wait to see my new life." One of the angels said to him, "That's the cross you've had this whole life anyway."
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So put yourself, how big's your cross, and could you carry a little more? And that's the question for you. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that counts is what we do for other people.
That's so true. I
The
know.
only thing the only thing we take it with us when we die is what we give to others.
I agree. And that's one of Kevin's guiding principles in my book, Insightful Player. It says, give other people something to smile about, especially when you don't feel like you have anything. It's amazing how much that will lift you up as well as bless someone else. Right,
Make
Kevin?
somebody smile.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
When they ask me, how are you doing? I say, if I was any better, I'd be twins. That always gets a smile. My wife wants to shoot me. She's heard it 1,000 times. It's no longer funny to her.
That's funny. Way to go, Paula. All right. So you have someone you want to speak about today. You want to shout out with someone very special.
Yeah, yesterday was a sad day, and you never think that you're tough enough not to cry, especially as a man and as you get older with experience. Yesterday we lost one of our former Eagle players, one of the guys I played with. His name was Guy Morris, really tough guy from University of Kentucky. Played center with the Eagles for several years and a couple with the Patriots. Just a great human being, and he got dementia. And the guys that played on the offensive line, especially the center, who has to hike the ball between his legs before he can defend himself, and then that defensive tackle has already hit him in the head twice. They are so prone to it. They probably have the largest, dementia of all the playing positions. Anyway, he passed away yesterday after struggling with this for over 2 years. And what was amazing to me about his toughness and being a warrior is 12 days ago, he said he wasn't going to eat or drink anything, and he did. It was his way of giving up the ghost.
Oh, wow.
And yesterday I called to talk to his daughter, and she said, if you want, he's not going to last more than 12 more hours, but if you want, he can hear you, but he can't talk. Do you want to say something to him? What was I going to say?
Oh, wow.
And I'm on the spot. And I said, yeah, put the phone up to his ear. Well, I never got past this without blubbering. I said, hey, Guy, this is Riles, number 52. And that was it, man. I couldn't get through it except to say, I'm praying for you. And the last thing I said to him, if you get to heaven before I do, bore a hole and pull me through. I know he doesn't know what I was talking about, but that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And, right there, I just thought, gosh, this guy, he went through the toughest part of his life right at the end. We never know when it's coming. And so be prepared. And he was prepared.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm so glad you got to speak to him in the last hours of his life. That's what an honor for both of you.
Still gives me chills.
Yeah, it is. Well, you give me chills, Kevin. You always have. I met you back in 2009. That's how long ago, when I first started Insightful Player. So thank you so much for coming on again, and we will have you back. Everyone, I really recommend this book. It is awesome. I couldn't put it down. Made a big pot of tea and just kept reading. It was great, and I won't lend it to anybody. I'll buy it for people because I don't want it to leave.
One quick story on that. I made sure I sent it out to the right people when I first got the book. By the way, it's sold over 10,000 copies.
Wow.
Mostly at my speaking engagements, but a couple thousand on Amazon also. But in doing Villanova football, I still broadcast to them. I ran into our president, Father Donahue, and Father's an elite intellectual. And I ran into him and I said, how'd you like my book, Father? And he said, it was very inspiring. He said, now that you're an author. And I said, yeah, you know what? And I want you to tell Father Timmons that I want that C in English changed to an A. And he didn't miss a beat. And he said, well, you'll have to go over in front of Austin Hall and dig him up because that's where he is these days. So
that's funny. That's funny. And how can people get in touch with you, Kevin?
Go to my website, K Reilly, all a K, REILLY.com.
Okay.
And you can see everything on there, and all my information's on there, and where I've spoken before, big companies, small companies, and kindergartens. So it's been everywhere and every place, and I love doing it. It's very fulfilling, great. And you know that, Chris.
I know. You're a tremendous gift, and I thank you for coming back on again. You'll be back.
because you know I'll be calling because we love
Let's
having
do it
you.
again before the Eagles get into the Super Bowl this year, all right?
All right. Okay. That sounds good. That sounds good. So everyone, I want to thank you for listening. If you're interested in getting more support, please reach out to me. I'm happy to start a mastermind where we could all get together and support each other. What do you think? All right. Well, you all have a great rest of your day. And Kevin, thank you so much. You're the best.
See you
Bye-bye.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The entire Insightful Player podcast initiative is dedicated to the late Tom Constantino. Tom Constantino was my PR consultant. He was over the moon fabulous. He was really an exceptional human being. And Insightful Player wouldn't have made it to where it is now if it wasn't for Tom. So Tom, up there in heaven, I just want you to know you're going to live in my heart forever. And I am forever grateful for you. Thank you.